Basic clause meaning in English grammar with examples. You are near to learning clause meaning in English grammar with examples. Clause is one of the things that is important to have a good understanding of to learn the English language properly. Today, through this discussion, we will know how many types and what are clauses, what are the characteristics of clauses or all the issues related to the rules of clauses. So let's get started. Clause meaning in English grammar. When some English words make a group of words with a subject and a verb, that is called a clause. This group of words makes a clear meaning. An English sentence can have one or more clauses. What are the characteristics of clause? We will call the set of words in the English sentence clause only when the following features are observed in them. Features are: 1. A subject will be a subject in the word group. 2. That phrase will contain a verb. 3. The phrase can convey the full meaning. 4. And that phrase will be used as part of a sentence. When a set of words in an English sentence is filled with the above characteristics, then we will call the set of words a clause. Types of clauses in English grammar with examples. Clause is of 3 types. Namely: 1. Principal or independent clause or main clause. 2. Subordinate or dependent clause. A. Noun clause. B. Adjective clause. C. Adverb clause. 3. Coordinate clause. Above we have seen that the clause is mainly divided into 3 parts, but the subordinate or dependent clause is again divided into 3 parts. The various types of clauses discussed above are discussed in detail below. Principal clause meaning in English. In English sentences, the clause that alone can express complete meaning is called the principal clause or independent clause. In this case, the speaker does not need the help of any other phrase to express his thoughts. This clause in English sentences is not dependent on any other clause. Characteristics of principal clause. Characteristics of the principal clause are: 1. The principal clause, the main clause of the English sentence. 2. The principal clause alone can express completeness. 3. The principal clause does not depend on any other clause. 4. A sentence can have one or more principal clauses. How to identify the main clause in a sentence. Among the various clauses in the English sentence, the clause that has a subject, a verb, and is able to express the whole mind should be recognized as the principal clause. Principal clause examples sentences. Some examples of principal clauses are discussed below. He has a dog which is red. Tinka comes to you when he has time. Tina wanted a dress which was expensive. After finishing her work, Maria went for a walk in the park. Although it was late, he decided to complete the project. She will go to the party if she finishes her assignment. If you finish your office work, you can go home to rest. Subordinate clause meaning and example. The clause in the English sentence which alone cannot express the complete meaning is called the subordinate clause or dependent clause. This clause cannot express meaning without the help of the principal clause. Subordinate clause or dependent clause in the presence of a principal clause expresses its full meaning. Characteristics of subordinate clause in English grammar. The characteristics of a subordinate clause are: 1. This clause is dependent to. Subordinate clause alone cannot express complete meaning. 3. This clause can be placed before or after the principal clause. 4. The presence of the principal clause completes the meaning of the subordinate clause. How do you find the subordinate clause in a sentence? In the English sentence, the clause that cannot express its meaning by itself and will get its full meaning due to the presence of a principal clause, we will identify as a subordinate clause. Subordinate clause examples sentences. While I was cooking dinner, the phone rang. In this sentence, subordinate clause, while I was cooking dinner, and principal clause, the phone rang. Because it was raining, the picnic was cancelled. In this sentence, subordinate clause, because it was raining, and principal clause, the picnic was cancelled. Types of subordinate clause with examples. Subordinate clause is divided into three parts. These are 1. Noun clause. 2. Adjective clause. 3. Adverb clause discussed in detail about themselves. Noun clause meaning and examples. A clause that acts as a noun in an English sentence is called a noun clause. Noun is used in English sentences where noun clause is used in the same way. The noun clause works as a subject, complement, or object in the sentence. How to identify noun clause with examples. English sentence that contains a subject and verb and it will be considered as noun clause. In this case, this phrase or clause works as a noun. Use of noun clause in English grammar. Whenever a noun is used while writing an English sentence, a noun clause is used the same way. The difference between the two is only that a noun is formed by one or more words but there is no subject-verb between them. But in the case of a noun clause, there will be a subject and a verb but basically, it will work as a noun. Adjective clause meaning and examples. The clause that acts as an adjective in an English sentence is called the adjective clause. The function of the adjective is to indicate the quality, defect, number, condition, quantity, etc. of nouns or pronouns. When the noun does a clause, it is called an adjective clause. How to identify adjective clause with examples. The way to recognize an adjective clause is when a clause does the work of an adjective, then the group of words or the clause should be identified as adjective clause. Use of adjective clause in sentences. Use of adjective clause when there is a need to provide different information about a hello noun or pronoun and when two or more words are required to meet that need and the presence of a subject and verb is required in that word, an adjective clause is to be used. Example of adjective clause in English. Some examples of the adjective clause are discussed below. The student whose project won the competition is very talented. Adjective clause in this sentence equals whose project won the competition. The restaurant where we had dinner last night has excellent service. Adjective clause whole in this sentence equals where we had dinner last night. The mobile that I bought yesterday is a bestseller. Adjective clause in this sentence equals that I bought yesterday. The mobile that I bought last week is very fast. Adjective clause in this sentence equals that I bought last week. The girl whose birthday is today is throwing a party. Adjective clause in this sentence equals whose birthday is today. The movie that won the Academy Award is now on Netflix. Adjective clause in this sentence equals that won the Academy Award. The book that is on the shelf is very interesting. Adjective clause whole in this sentence equals that is on the shelf. The restaurant where we had our first date is closing down. Adjective clause in this sentence equals where we had our first date. The dog that barks loudly at night belongs to our neighbor. Adjective clause whole in this sentence equals that barks loudly at night. Adverb clause definition and examples. The functions that adverbs perform when they form a clause in an English sentence are called adverb clauses. Adverbs is responsible for specializing other than nouns and pronouns in the English language. And when a clause does that work, it will be called an adverb clause. How to identify adverbial clause in a sentence. The easiest way to recognize an adverbial clause is when a subject and verb combined phrase behaves exactly like an adverb, then it should be identified as an adverbial clause. Hope you understand the matter. Use of adverbial clauses in a sentence. The use of the adverbial clause is to provide additional information about all parts of speech other than nouns or pronouns. Only adverbial clauses are used where a combination of subject and verb is required to specify any parts of speech other than noun or pronoun. Examples of adverbial clauses in sentences. Some examples of the adverbial clause are discussed below. When it rains, I prefer to stay indoors. Adjective clause whole in this sentence equals when it rains. If you try hard, you will pass the game. Adjective clause whole in this sentence equals if you try hard. Before the concert starts, please be seated. Adjective clause hole in this sentence equals before the concert starts. I will call you as soon as I arrive. Adjective clause in this sentence equals as soon as he arrives. Wherever she goes, her dog follows. Adjective clause in this sentence equals wherever she goes. Since you are not feeling well, you should see a doctor. Adjective clause hole in this sentence equals since you are not feeling well. The train will depart after the passengers board. Adjective clause hole in this sentence equals after the passengers board. Unless you finish your homework, you cannot play outside. Adjective clause in this sentence equals unless you finish your homework. The meeting is postponed since many participants are absent. Adjective clause hole in this sentence equals since many participants are absent. Coordinate clause definition and examples. When a principal clause is joined to another principal clause or a subordinate clause is joined to another subordinate clause by coordinate conjunction. Each clause joined will be called coordinate clause. In this case, the principal clause will be associated with the principal clause and the subordinate clause will be associated with the subordinate clause. What is the way to know the coordinate clause in a sentence? When two or more clauses are joined in an English sentence by coordinate conjunctions such as for, and, nor, but, or, yet, etc., then they are identified as coordinate clauses. However, it is important to note that each clause must be identical. For example, if one is a principal clause, the other will also be a principal clause. On the other hand, if there is a subordinate clause, the other will also be a subordinate clause. Example of coordinate clause in a sentence. Some examples of the coordinate clause are discussed below. She likes to cook, but she doesn't enjoy cleaning up afterward. We can go to the park, or we can stay home and relax. The concert was cancelled due to bad weather, yet the fans remained hopeful. You can either take the bike or car to the office. He is good at mathematics, therefore, he enjoys solving complex problems. The team played well, but they could not win the championship. You should complete your assignments first, then you can go out to play. The cat sleeps all day, yet it becomes active at night. Final words for clause meaning in English. Because of the above discussion, we understand that the clause is a part of the sentence. This part of the sentence will have a subject and a verb and will act as a component of the sentence. This part of the sentence is capable of expressing meaning independently. Clause is mainly divided into three parts, namely: 1. Principal or independent clause. 2. Subordinate or dependent clause, and 3. Coordinate clause. Among them, subordinate or dependent clause again has three parts, namely: A. Noun clause, B. Adjective clause, and C. Adverb clause. A clause is divided in terms of joining with another clause or in terms of their use in English sentences, which has been highlighted in the previous discussion. Hope you understand the matter. This content may also change with time. So after watching the video, if possible, when you can see the complete content once, then you will know everything. Thank you very much.